What I have here, it's a power control unit or power electronics, or some people call it inverter. This part goes on a Mercedes Benz S400 Hybrid, and basically if the car doesn't start and you have lost communication with the power machine code or something like that, this is the issue. This is what goes bad. Here in US, to buy this part from Mercedes dealership, just the part itself, I believe is about $8,000, and to get it done at Mercedes dealer, it would cost around 13,000 or some change. So what I decided to do, I have a 2010 S400. Customer took it to Mercedes. Mercedes said needs a power control electronics. The customer decided it was too expensive. They wanted to let the car go, so I took it as a project, and I wanted to take this thing apart and see what fails, and other people can take it apart or find out how to take it apart. So in this video, I will show how to take this unit apart, not to remove it from the car, obviously. First things first, when you work with high volts or hybrid or electric, you have to be very, very careful. There's plenty of these signs all over. There's a procedure how to disconnect the main battery, 12-volt battery, and so on, and the orange cables. If you decide to do this job on your own, you have to be very careful, do some research, find out the procedure. I'm not gonna go through the procedure, even though I've done this so many times before, not the first time. And I'm gonna go over details, how some of these components are put together and where they go and what fails. Now, I probably do not know exactly the term name of each component, so I'm just gonna refer as a motherboard. A lot of people say there's not much information, how to remove this, how to remove that, how to get to that. Actually, there is plenty of information. You just have to be authorized to use it. I am actually authorized to use a lot of factory procedures on those hybrid system or any Mercedes in general. And also I am certified to work on EV and hybrid cars. So let's go over some components. This goes on top of the main unit. It just sits like that. That's where the two cables go from the orange cable. Obviously, you have to remove these components. So flip it. This part right here connects to the board right there, to this board. So I believe this is the main power board, or not the main power board, but the module that after you install you have to reset. So flip it over like this. And these two connectors, they sit like this. and these two connectors or pins, they'll stick up there, and this board goes on top of this. In order to remove this connector from this board, it's easy to remove the two screws right here and loosen up these two, so when you lift this cover from here, it's easy to get to this blue connector. And then obviously you have to remove these screws. Some of the screws I put it back just so I don't lose them. So this is the let's say the control unit, the brain. Now we go over this other board, which sits like this. Now this board is located right here. You got some screws, these screws, and these are together. I'll go over it in a minute. When you flip it, you get all these kind of fins. Cooling goes here and here to cool off this power board. This is the board that starts the car or sends power to the starter. Behind this, all these pins, they're capacitors inside of there. Now a lot of people need to replace this. You can buy this from a aftermarket source, refurbished or remanufactured. Those are the screws, hold on to there. Now this is another not easy task to do. This board goes on top of this. These pins connect like that, so it goes on top just like that. Now to separate this board from this board, it's kind of tricky. The trick is you gotta pull back these steps. Now it looks like they have some sort of silicone or gasket maker. So this kind of clips like this, or I should flip it this way. It's like a little channel that locks in. Right here, that's where the board rests. Now there's some plastic pins sticking out. They're very, very sensitive. I already broke all four of them. They were missing. I don't think there's a problem. So basically this moves a little bit, so you gotta play with this, pull it back. It's not easy task to do. So basically you have the board like this, and you gotta pull those back in order to separate these two. Once this is off, you got it out, put it to the side, Now the trick part is to remove this board from this part to separate these two. As you can see, these contacts, those are all soldered to the board, just like that. And you can see 3, 3, 3. So I had to desolder this board from the main board. It's not easy, but not as hard as it looks. You need a solder gun and some other tools. Once you have this off, and then you can visually see what happened or where the issue is. This right here exploded. And you can see here it kind of got hot. Probably camera can't point it out, but with the naked eye you can visually see the difference between this side of the board and this side of the board, the color. But you know, it's too obvious to tell if the board is bad or not. So the whole thing exploded. And then as I'm removing it from the car, I could smell the burn, or it has a distinctive smell when an electronic power board goes bad or it's burned. And if you have done it or smelled it once, you can never forget the smell. So you can see this exploded. Also left some marks on the board from the explosion. And keep it in mind, this board has over 100 volts. So it's a high volt system. It's not 12 volt or 48 volt. It's bigger than that. That's why you have to be careful when you work on hybrid system, or not only careful, but you need to know. Now another trick is this access panel over here, this cover goes in here. It does have these 5-star torques. Now this is probably the first step to do to get to the board or to the harness. I just wanted to mention it. So with this one, based on visual inspection, I do not think this board is fixable. Not only that, but they have this glue that you need I think it's a special chemical to dissolve it, and then you have to reapply it. It's very sticky. It's actually messy. I've tried before to get it off on other boards. It's impossible. You can, but you're gonna damage all the little other pins. It's not even worth. So what I did, I went on eBay and I found a few of these boards remanufactured for sale after tax and everything, and hassling around with them make an offer for no reason, just to lower $3. I ended up purchasing one for, after tax and shipping, $615. Like I said, this is more like a project. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, I would have to buy a whole unit remanufactured. The downside, these cars are so nice and they have a good fuel consumption, but the value of the cars have dropped so much. Like, this part costs twice as much as the car. If you try to buy the car on the used market, those cars, depending on mileage also, anything above 130, 140,000 miles or at 150 range, you can find one for like $5,000 if you find one, because most of them are in junkyards because they go bad and nobody wants to replace these parts due to they're expensive, number one, and number two, they're not easy to replace. I mean, for me, took me an hour and a half to remove it, and another an hour and a half to install it, take another 30 minutes to reset all the codes and everything else. But now there are a few people online or maybe on the website that they sell these units. If you don't want to go through this, you can just buy the whole unit, remanufacture it, and replace it. So like I said in the beginning of the video, this is just to disassemble this part itself. It's not how to remove it from the car. I hope some people are not disappointed if they find this video and they're watching it and they'll be like, I thought you're gonna show us step by step how to remove it. Honestly, to get the right angle how to remove this, you need basically a cameraman just standing behind you. Now, you can remove this if you have the car up in the lift. Makes your life so much easier. Also, you can remove it on your driveway. Now, it takes some skills and tricks to remove it in your driveway, but it can be done. Also on the driveway, just some skills and some techniques. And once I have the new part in, I am going to make another video putting it back together, or half together, because this part with this bottom part will come like this, but the harder part is to remove this board out of this board. Or maybe nobody else have taken these things apart, or well, I'm sure a lot of people taken them apart, but they never really made a video and you know how to take it apart. So these electric cars are fun, and some of them are good looking, they're fast, but when it comes down to these problems, nobody wants to deal with it. And I've worked on pretty much all electric cars or hybrid cars that are available here in the US market. I don't know much about the other markets, but whatever it's available here in US for sale, I've literally worked on them. Now there are a lot of people that work on them as well. I'm not the only one, and there are also people that know more than I do when it comes to those electrics vehicles or hybrids. I mean, I know as much as I can fix them. So hopefully whoever's watching it, I'll wait till the end You might hear this, but I'm sure it might be helpful to some, not to some others. So hopefully helps some people just to see. Now, you don't have to remove this board to see if this is blown or not. You can clearly see it. So if you look through this, when these are all together like this, you can see through. And then if you see anything popped, obviously it's easy to spot because everything is shiny. Now, maybe some other models have issue with this board, or maybe that board. I'm not really sure, because every time when I fix one of these, I just replace the entire thing. I don't waste time to take it apart. Also, customers do not want the car to be in the shop for 2-3 months. Take it apart, find out what's wrong with it, just to kind of entertain people. So it's a waste of time. Nobody's paying anybody, any mechanic, just to take things apart for no reason, when everybody knows this is the part that's bad. This entire thing it's bad. So this is more like a project to me, so I do not care how long it takes me to take it apart. Maybe I'll buy the board, or the board will come in, install it, and the car still won't start. Maybe this has shorted out. You can visually see a lot of these, let's say, newer boards compared to the 1990s boards style, if I can say that. They have a lot of chips and microchips and processors and stuff like that, so they're very hard to tell if it's, unless it's like visually you can see it, like this scenario. But a lot of them, they have shorts, and all kinds of problems like naked eye can see. And then there's some other tests you can do to a board to find out if there's a short, you supply power. There's some other tricks. That's probably someone else already explained it on YouTube, I'm sure, how to test these circuit boards, like especially in computers. It's literally like a computer board. That's what it is. It's basically a computer in a different shape. I cannot count how many cars through the years I've had to replace this part. Actually, this part is replaced from Mercedes probably not long ago, judging on how clean the part is. And as I'm removing the part, I could tell the technician who worked on it kind of over torqued some of the screws, or maybe didn't use the correct Torx bit, the right size, and some of them they're like, So these had a recall. A few years ago they had a recall. I'm sure this had it done, but for some reason the warranty was not extended for the second part. It was extended only for the original part. The lowest mileage car I had coming into the shop one time, it was it was a few years ago. It was a 2011, I believe. S400 had 42,000 miles, and this part failed. This was like a few years back, I would say 5 years ago. So the car was fairly new and it had good amount of value, and the customer ended up replacing the part. I remember bought it from Mercedes, and then the recall came out after I replaced it, I believe. and some other models they got it replaced. Now, there is some information you can find out if it's been replaced or not on the recall. Depending on states or depending on the dealership, they can give you information about the car, or they decide not to, depending on how friendly they are. So you can call Mercedes and you can ask, you can provide the VIN number. Keeping in mind, this is for the US market only. I do not know anything about other markets or any other countries, the way Mercedes runs and procedures in different countries. It's completely different from US. I know more about US. I've been working with Mercedes cars for over a decade, and I have access to some information that some people can't, or it's not public. Unfortunately, I cannot share it, because when you get approved from Mercedes, actually you get approved from Mercedes in Germany, you sign a paper that you're not going to share any information provider. So I can't really share any of those details. I can only see them, I can study them, I can read, I can learn from it, but I can't share it. So that's why there are not many information available. And also, I don't think it's good to have so much information about these cars. Now, I understand everybody wants to fix their own car, but keep in mind, this is a high volt system. If you're not trained, if you're not familiar with the system, you get electrocuted, you die, and then people go and sue whatever they want to sue because they think they can sue people for no reason. That's why everything is limited when it comes to these cars. And I've had other shops bring me other Mercedes hybrid newer models too. AC compressor goes out and they look at, oh, it's a S550E, and they can't really, they're afraid, or they can't, or they're not trained. I mean, I don't blame. Once you see the sign, everybody gets scared. Now we have these signs everywhere, even if you're replacing an HID light bulb, by the way, but these hybrids, electrics, are no joke. These signs, you gotta take them serious. It's not like, you have to have special gloves, special shoes, special pliers, special screwdrivers. Everything about this, to work on these cars, it's completely different special tools. And like I said earlier, I have to go through training, classes, certifications in order to work on them. And yeah, so I might make a second video when everything is back together, kind of like how everything goes back. But I'm not so sure if it's going to work. I mean, it's not a lot of labor in a way. It's just like time consuming, putting everything back together, putting it back in the car, and find out the car won't start. Now you have to have a Mercedes scanner to kind of like calibrate or reset an hour operation, because that module remembers every detail about the car, how long it ran, and all that. Now, one thing that it kept me thinking, the eco stop and start works on those cars. When you stop, obviously the engine turns off, and then you still have everything else powered, like AC and everything, because it runs through the high volt system. And there's a way to deactivate the stop start, meaning when you go to a stop sign or complete full stop or a traffic light or whatever the scenario might be, so the car won't turn off. What I'm thinking it helps is that the engine doesn't have to start so often. You start it once, like any other car, without equal and start or equal stop and start system. So the starter, well, actually this is the starter module in another term, starts the car. So this doesn't have too much overload. It's not loaded. Stop, start, stop, start, stop, start. You only start it once. Now I know the whole point of it is that to stop and then let off brake pedal, car starts, move forward. That's the whole idea of it. But probably to prevent from prematurely damaged or prematurely wear, I should say. Maybe that helps. I'm gonna actually make another video how to deactivate this ecosystem. I have some other videos how to deactivate it on the other cars using Vediamo. I haven't really thought of this, and then since I deal with a lot of customers, I can really just, you know, do some testing or, you know, program or code customers' cars. I don't want any other module to fail, so this is my car and I can play with it. Even though, you know, it's gonna cost me money to fix it, but you know, I'm not losing anything. I don't have to fix somebody's car, so it's not gonna be. And like I said, this was a project. I always wanted to buy one of these hybrids and then play with it. Now this video has become so long, me talking, but maybe someone will listen to the entire video. You can convert these cars from S400 to S350. You can buy the starter alternator. Well, they have the alternator, the starter, regular starter, AC compressor, crank pulley, tensioner pulley, and all these other pulleys. Definitely have to change the flywheel and some other modifications, some aftermarket modules that tells the car to start, and you can convert it. Now I've seen them online. They're around $1,500 with some harness and stuff like that. I have never seen one here in US. I've heard people done it. I've never seen one in person. So that's another way, if you know, when it comes to a project. But you know, I run a shop full time all day, so I don't really have time to mess around too much with this project. So well, we'll see. We'll see when the new board comes in, put it together, and then we'll find out if it works. Maybe it will work for a week or two, or I don't know. I don't know the longevity or how long it's gonna last. I'm gonna, you know, try to deactivate the eco stop and start. So maybe that helps the engine, or not the engine, but this board not to overwork at all time. But also, living in Florida, this car's been in Florida all its life since new. I would say the Florida heat takes a beating in some of these electronic components like ECMs and stuff like that. I've seen it all the time. Now a lot of people say, oh, they put it in a bad spot. It's on top of the motor, or it's inside of the motor. It's by the side, by the exhaust, by this, by that. It's the heat that cooks these control units when the car sits. Sometimes it gets so hot, like 145 degrees, not the ambient temperature, but the car, if it sits outside, everything gets hot, every component. So maybe that's another reason why these modules, they fail so much. I mean, they knew this module is gonna get hot because they have this coolant system running through. They exactly knew it needs to be cooled off because it's gonna get extremely hot. So let's see. And then I know this has become a long video, maybe too much talk, but hope it helps. And if anybody has any question, they can comment, or you can email me. You can send me a DM on Instagram, and I'm more than happy to try to help, make some new friends. Hopefully nobody has a S400 with this issue, but let's see. Alright, this video comes to an end. This is it.